In 2025, everyone knows how to edit, and with so many new editors flooding the market, it's becoming harder and harder to stand out. But the style that's allowed me to charge over $1,000 a video, as well as work with some of the largest clients on YouTube, is the smooth editing style. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the 5 secrets to creating smooth animations, including how to make your edits go from stiff to dynamic, how to stand out from every other editor so you get paid well as the hidden secret that I've used to get over 250 million views on my clients' videos. But to start, let me show you how to implement animations into your workflow so you're not wasting loads of time while you're editing. So last year, I'm working with this huge client. The video is due tonight and he's got like 3 million subscribers, so I don't want to miss this. I'm only halfway through the cutting stage and the video is due tonight. But I know that if I just lock in, I can just about get it done on time. But while I'm cutting, there's one clip that's been playing at my mind. It's only 5 seconds long, and the problem is I'm getting some crazy ideas for it. Now that sounds like a good problem to have, these creative ideas, but the reason that was a problem is because it goes completely against the workflow I promised myself I'd follow. So now I'm fighting with myself. Do I get the cut done like I told myself I would? Or do I just jump into that animation that I'm getting the ideas for? 2 hours later, I'm sitting there at my desk, proud. The cut's still not done, but this animation I made is probably one of my best yet. And best of all, I've still got enough time to actually finish off the video. So now that I've scratched that creative itch, I go back to the cut, finish that off, and while I'm watching the video back to work on the visuals, I realized that the clip I did the animation for, the video worked better without it in there at all. So now I've got another internal battle. A part of me wants to keep this animation in because I've just spent hours on it, but objectively, it's better if I delete it. I didn't want to admit to myself that I just wasted 2 hours, so I asked the client, would you be cool if this stayed in? But he agreed that we should remove the clip. So there I was at my desk, a deleted animation, 2 hours of my life gone, and a video that I still had to finish. This single experience changed the entire way I look at my workflow. I used to be the guy who would jump between cutting and then working on some animations, maybe some music, and then back to the cut. But now I work in layers. I'd get the cuts done first, then the light visuals, then the heavy visuals, then the sound effects, then the music, and so on. With the intention being the video should be good enough to upload with the cuts alone before actually moving on to the visuals. That way, if I'm working on an animation, I know I'm actually going to be using it. But once you're ready to work on the animations and the visuals, how do you actually get the ideas for them? Well, to understand the process around creative edits, we need to understand sand dune theory. And this is the same process that I've used for clients with tens of millions of subscribers, and here's how it works. So imagine you're in a flat desert, hundreds of miles of sand as far as the eye can see, and right in the middle there's a tiny bush. Now whenever the wind blows, a few grains of sand end up getting caught onto the bush, and at first it seems like nothing's happening, but over time it starts to slowly form a mound as more sand gets built up. That mound means even more sand gets caught, and then more, and then more, and then more, and eventually you've got this sand dune which is spanning out miles wide. Those grains of sand in this analogy are sort of like creative ideas, and the only way we can actually catch them is if we place down that tiny bush at the start. So how do you implement this into your editing? You want to give yourself permission to create something bad at first. Just throw down a PNG, type some text, whatever it is, because when you throw something down, that gives you more surface area to get better ideas after that. What if I moved that like this, and then, oh, that gives me another idea. What if I transition like this, and eventually you have a complex edit? Because just like Henry Matisse said, creativity takes courage. And I promise you, none of the best editors that you look up to went into a edit wanting to make a crazy edit. They just had the courage to throw something down, and they figured it out as they went. But once you're actually throwing things down onto your timeline, how do you actually animate them to look good? Well, for that, there's 2 philosophies, and it's important that you understand which one's right for you. So I was in a Discord call with one of my editing friends, and he said something that I found absolutely insane. He said he refuses to use presets because it makes him less creative. If you don't know, presets are just drag and drop presets that you've saved from before. And while he was saying this, I was looking at my screen at an edit that I had probably used around 400 presets on. For context, I was making around 10K a month at that stage, and there was zero chance that I would be able to do that if I didn't have presets. Because not only can presets make you faster, but you can use them in a way where your work also looks unique. So how do you use presets in that way? It's called preset adaptation. So I will proudly say that I use a lot of presets, but the trick is I will rarely use them as they are. Instead, I'll do things like stack them on top of each other, or I'll change the values, or I'll make the keyframes further or closer apart. Because it's when you not only use presets, but adapt them to the exact animation you're doing, that's when you create unique effects. And to give you a head start here, I've given you over 250 smooth editing presets, completely for free. They're the same presets that I still use for my client videos, so you can go get that now in the description. And now that you have all the effects that you need, let me break down this hidden trick that I use for my clients' videos to get crazy retention. It's gotten me over 6 million views on a single video for a client that was averaging less than 10 times that. And to understand what this trick is, I want you to start reading this text. So that should be pretty easy. But now I want you to start reading this text at the exact same time. It's a lot harder, right? Well, that's exactly what you're doing when you're not following this next tip. Have you ever wondered why some edits, they're super complex, but they're still easy to understand, while others, they're a complete mess? Well, to understand that, we need to understand how eyes work. So humans, we can only focus on one spot at a time. And at any point in the video, you need to know exactly where you want your viewer to be watching. It's sort of like getting a cat to chase a laser. And yeah, the cat can follow it, but move it too fast or too far, and the cat's gonna get tired. And if you end up moving the laser too fast, the cat will lose it completely. And in the same way, if you're asking the viewer to move their focus across the screen every single half second, 1 second in an animation, you're just gonna overwhelm them. Instead, try to keep movements near each other. So if something happens towards the middle of the screen, make the next movement towards the middle of the screen. And also avoid keeping things right towards the edges of the screen. And never, ever, ever have two things happening on screen at the exact same time. Like imagine you gave the cat 2 lasers to chase. It just starts spazzing out. So if there are 2 things you want to bring onto the screen at the same time, just offset it, even if it's by a few frames, because it'll make it so much easier to understand. So the less you can make the viewer move their eyes, the more engaging your edits will be. But how do you actually do that? Well, that's where these next principles come in. And as soon as I implemented these, it completely revolutionized my editing. And I know they work because as soon as I implemented them, my clients' videos started getting comments like these. So a few weeks ago, I was reviewing an editor's work frame by frame as part of my private mentorship. And one of the problems he came to me was he'd been learning smooth animations, but something about his videos felt off. In fact, I've seen thousands of video editors making this mistake, and if you're watching this, likelihood is you probably are too. So what was that mistake? Well, he focused so much on the animation and the movements, but he forgot about design. I want you to imagine a cupcake. If the animations and the movements are the icing on top, the actual cake is the design of the scene. You can enjoy a well-made cake without the icing, and in the same way, if a video has good design, you can get away with sort of mid animations, but no amount of animations and smooth movement can make up for bad design. There's 4 key design principles that I want you to focus on. The first one is composition, so this is where things are placed around the screen. The second is sizing, this is how big things are. The third one is spacing, this is how far apart those things are. And finally, color. This is how colors work together and what those colors mean. You can get away with simple or sometimes even bad animation, but viewers will not let you off the hook for having bad design. So how do you improve your design? Well, for that, I've created a whole 4-hour course on smooth editing. And the second module covers exactly how to implement those design principles into your editing. So I recommend you go watch that right now.